on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show channel. Please like and share the show. All of you in Radio Land, tell somebody about us. We have a lot to talk about today. Of course, we had these primaries yesterday in in Wisconsin, in Vermont, in Connecticut, and in Minnesota. Ilhan Omar won, Mandela Barnes won. It was a really interesting mix of wins because President Trump's people won a lot too. They've been winning a lot from coast to coast to coast. And we've got a lot to talk about with respect to that. And we're going to be talking about him today and the political fallout of the FBI raid on his home. What is that? We're hearing a lot of violent talk. And it seems that the Democrats' narrative that they had seized at the beginning of the week actually is kind of moving away from them. So let's talk about that, everybody. And then Carolyn Bryant Donham, the woman responsible for fingering Emmett Till, the person responsible, most responsible ultimately for his lynching. There was an arrest warrant found in the basement of a Mississippi courthouse in June. That happened 67 years later. And she was not arrested because they didn't want to bother her, right? Now, mind you, she got in the truck with her husband and her brother-in-law and found the guy who offended her, she claims, and now she says it didn't really happen that way. Well, a grand jury declined to indict her. What do you think about that? And then we're going to hear further from Attorney Darrell Jones. We want to know what happened in the courtroom with the killers of Ahmaud Arbery. I think it's important for us to know what happened. He didn't get enough time to talk about that yesterday, but we're going to talk about that today. It's interesting. Carolyn Bryant Donham, the woman who fingered Emmett Till, she calls herself a victim. Unbelievable. You cannot make this stuff up, everybody. Let's get to some of these headlines. Chicago, a high of 79 degrees and sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 86 degrees, sunny. The Dow closed down 58 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed down 150 points. The S&P 500 closed down 17 points. In Major League Baseball, the White Sox 3, the Royals 2, the Nationals 6, the Cubs 5, the Dodgers 10, and the Twins 3. The Storm 111 and WNBA and the Sky 100. And the Lynx will be playing the Mercury tonight. Millions of American students are heading back to school this month. We're going to be talking with Dr. Shanina Knighton about that. What should you be doing to prepare your children as teachers, the staff at the schools, the entire ecosystem? What can we do to be prepared for this new school session as the pandemic is still with us, everybody? The European Union's import ban on Russian coal goes into effect today. The bloc has already imposed several rounds of sanctions aimed at punishing Russian President Vladimir Putin and his government for ordering the invasion of Ukraine, but experts say this move will deal a harsh blow to Russia's economy. We will see how all of this is working out. A massive fire in Cuba was contained by firefighters on Tuesday, 5 days after lightning struck a large oil storage tank, everybody. The primary season continued yesterday with elections in Wisconsin, Vermont, Minnesota, and Connecticut. One of the most closely watched races took place in the pivotal swing state of Wisconsin, where former President Donald Trump's chosen candidate, Tim Michels, won the Republican primary for governor over a rival backed by former Vice President Mike Pence. And the Lieutenant Governor, 35-year-old Mandela Barnes, African-American, became the Senate candidate, the nominee from the Democratic Party. So we'll see what will happen with him this fall. In Minnesota, Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar, a member of the squad, the Progressive Squad, narrowly survived a close contest for her seat, but she did win, everybody. All right, AM 950 Radio. In Vermont, Democrat Becca Balint is on a path to become the first woman to represent the state in Congress. Wow, first woman to represent Vermont. Good for them. It's taken a while. And in Connecticut, Governor Ned Lamont and Senator Richard Blumenthal got their GOP challengers in re-election races. They're expected to win in November. In the meantime, former President Donald Trump is expected to be deposed by lawyers from the New York Attorney General's office later today regarding an investigation into the Trump Organization's finances. It is currently unknown whether the former president will answer questions. The deposition comes after the FBI search of President Trump's residence in Florida on Monday signaled an extraordinary escalation of a probe into the handling of White House documents from his presidency. It's kind of odd, Pastor Vicki Johnson, because the investigators have been to Mar-a-Lago at least twice, according to public records, and the president even showed him where these documents have been kept. Why didn't they get them then? This seems kind of strange to me. There are a lot of unanswered questions here, so we got to talk about that. Pastor Vicki Johnson, how are you doing today?
I am doing good, Santita. What about you?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Talk to me. You are worshiping. You're virtual, but you're also in person. And for those people who don't have masks, you hand masks out at the door. You're at 80th and Jeffrey. Every Sunday, you have an hour of power. What time does it begin?
At 11:45 a.m. And come and be blessed, or tune in on Facebook and join us in worship in our hybrid worship.
So now, what do you do when people don't want to wear masks? Very quickly.
We strongly encourage it, but we have enough space so that they can sit apart from others.
Okay.
And so that we can all be safe.
Absolutely, because everyone, regardless of your vaccination status, because a lot of people have not been boosted and are not going to be boosted, so they're not current. That's the equivalent, according to medical professionals, of not being vaccinated at all. That having been said, now when you go places, like if you see the president or the vice president, Pastor Johnson, they want to know, regardless of your vaccination status, are you COVID negative? That's what they want to know, which to me was always very interesting, because the vaccination is not the vaccination as we have known it. Indeed, the definition of vaccines were changed to accommodate how these shots behaved. What they do is protect you, everybody. They protect you from getting a clinically relevant infection that would have you hospitalized. But now we're seeing a lot of people going to the hospital too. So clearly there's some things that we need to be doing so that we can take care of ourselves. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the hand hygiene, that's the masking, it's all of that. Whatever your vaccine status, I'm not here to argue anything with you about that. What I am saying though is you have to, in order to protect yourself from COVID, there's some things that you're going to really have to do. And if you get COVID, there's some other things that you need to do to make sure that it does not become something awful for you. Get your immune system together. I think I was very, very blessed because I think I'm an orange person now, because guess what? I had so much vitamin C and zinc in my system. Oh my goodness. But you can have some lingering. It's not just long COVID. COVID leaves a little something behind for everybody. So please take care of yourselves, everybody. So let's get to the good news. I need it today because I've had a tough week.
Well, I'm glad that you inquired about how we handle masking and things like that at St. Thomas, because I made a really big announcement this past Sunday about COVID-19, since people still think that we're out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But they needed to be reminded that we are not, and still do all of the things that our professionals have been telling us to do so that we can be safe and come out of it from the standpoint where we are right now. But good morning, Santita, good morning to all of your morning stars and friends. There is good news. Saturday, I saw a colleague of mine, Father Dr. Fulton Porter, who is the pastor of St. Thomas Episcopal Church, and he's also a medical doctor. He's been working out diligently during the pandemic. He's dropped a couple of sizes, and is now nothing but muscles. He makes posts on social media daily to rub it in, so I thought. So I jokingly asked him to lay hands on me so that I could feel like working out daily and end up looking like him. But in all sincerity, he gave me a most unexpected response that has since motivated me to action daily. Father Dr. Porter told me that you can't wait until you feel like it to do it. You just have to do it. Did you hear me?
Mm.
You can't wait until you feel like it to do it. You just have to do it. And he makes those posts on social media of himself doing it to hold himself accountable. I thought about that. How many times have we not done things because we didn't feel like it? I once asked a friend of mine while we were at church why their child wasn't at church that Sunday, and they responded that their child didn't feel like it. There are so many things that we don't feel like doing. Going to work, grocery shopping, back to school shopping, filing taxes, going to school, making the bed, cleaning up, cooking, going to church, or going to the gym to work out, or not even leaving the house to work out, but we don't even feel like working out in our homes. We just don't feel like it. And listen, if we only did what we felt like doing, very little meaningful things would get done. We should make a pledge today to just do it. That Nike slogan is more than a slogan. It is something to encourage and inspire us to do it. Stop waiting until we feel like it and just do it. So much more will get done, and you will be glad that you did it. Not feeling it? Just do it. If you will do this, and I believe that you will, then to me, that's good news.
I needed that today. I needed that. Thank you. Just do it. There have been so many times that I have not wanted to go somewhere, do something.
Yeah.
But, I found that when I went, there was a blessing there for me. And that is, and then sometimes when, I was trying to get someplace and I've been held back, there was a blessing in that too. But really, that's what discipline is, doing the things that you don't want to do, but that you need to do. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Just do it. How can we worship with you in person on Sundays?
To St. Thomas. Yes, St. Thomas Lutheran Church at 8000 South Jeffrey Boulevard on the corner of 80th and Jeffrey at 11:45 a.m. each Sunday in person or on Facebook. We'd be happy to have you worship with us.
Beautiful church right up the street from South Shore High School. Love it.
Right.
Love it, and love you, Pastor Vicki Johnson. I'm so glad that you're always with us. And thank you for that beautiful picture of you and Pastor Tisha Williams and Reverend Stephen Thurston at the Proctor Conference, sending much love to Reverend Dr. Ivor Carruthers and the wonderful work that she has been doing. I know you all miss Dr. Maurice McNeil very, very much, who made her transition a couple of years ago. She loved that conference. And Reverend Dr. Proctor was, of course, my father's mentor, who turned him away from law school at Duke to go to seminary at the University of Chicago. Amazing. He said, I think The seminary is better for you. You need more space, Jesse. Oh, bless his heart. Bless your heart. Love you so much, Pastor Vicki Johnson. We're welcoming, of course.
Love you.
Absolutely. We got she is ministerial in her zeal, and we just love Dr. Shanina Knighton. Of course, she's got this new big job. She's the executive director of the Association for Professionals in Infection Control and Epidemiology. They have a center for the IPC Research Practice and Innovation Center, and we're so glad that she is there. Really, we're going to make another turn toward hygiene poverty, because I think that's a very, very real issue that we don't know a lot about, but we live with it. Many of us live with it every day. But we're going back to school, Dr. Knighton, and we're still in the pandemic. And you said something yesterday that was really interesting that I thought we needed to, and you said that, we needed to revisit it, that parents are really key. They're really key for teaching our children how to prevent infection, what they should do to be safe, with safety practices. I know I asked you this yesterday, but to me, it bears emphasizing. Are there a set of protocols that infection preventionists and epidemiologists have developed for students, for teachers, for the janitorial staffs, for the food staff in these schools?
Good morning, Santita. So I wouldn't say that there's necessarily other protocols that exist, but we are individuals that dwell in those spaces to make sure that we're providing guidance. The thing is no situation is going to be the same, like no school is going to be the same. So there are basic fundamental things in regards to, do you have something set up to report sick days? Do you have protocols for hand hygiene for everyone and temperature checks for everyone that's entering the school? What's the protocol if a student does start to feel sick? When someone has COVID, how is everyone notified? And then from that point on, are there any isolation or quarantine measures of anyone that came in close proximity of that student? There's also cleaning measures. And so are rails that students have to all touch going up and down stairs cleaned at an increased frequency just to ensure the germ transmission between students is lowered in terms of risk. So there are things that should be happening and can be happening. I think the biggest question is are people asking the right questions? And when I say parents are the gatekeepers, if this is where your children are going to be, you want to make sure that the individuals that are being asked by, let's say, their state or their local leadership to do these things, you want to make sure that they are being done. Because just because it is written in policy or guidelines does not mean that it's actually being practiced. And just because it's written in policy and guidelines and it's been simulated does not mean that it always equates to real life.
So what can you tell parents now? I mean, just in these 3.5 minutes, and with your permission, I'd like for you, I know you've got a very, very busy schedule, but our kids are going back to school right now. So I do want to take another at another time when your schedule will allow it, to go until the top of the hour, so that we can go through these protocols, what a parent should tell a child, what we should be telling teachers, but what should parents be doing right now?
Well, for one, I think it's important, like I get it, sing a happy birthday while you wash your hands should get you to 20 to 25 seconds. Our children have spent a lot of time at home, which means that a lot of their protocols in regards to infection prevention and control have been lost, or they have been minimized, or they have not been practiced at all. So it's the time to figure out, what does your household believe it is doing to stay safe, and what can it do to stay safe during the school year? So one of the things to start with is hand hygiene. So is making sure your kid is still not sprinkling their hands up under the water to be able to clean their hands. And it's making sure they're legitimately cleaning their hands and that they're good in that regard. So I think that is very important. The other aspect of it is going to be making sure that if there is masks, and I'm saying masks that you want your child to wear, that you have some sort of protocol set up at home for rotating out those masks. If you're buying uniforms and let's say or clothing, maybe it's pushing back. And when I'm saying pushing back, maybe not getting that one extra pair of pants in order for you to be able to buy a pack of masks to make sure that they have some extras or at least one daily to be able to use. It's making sure that they're putting it on right. It's making sure that they're cleaning their hands before putting it on and taking it off. It's also helping them understand that they're going to be very comfortable with seeing their friends at school and they're going to miss their friends, but that there has to be some sort of physical distancing in between that occurs because you don't know. The other thing is, and this is a conversation that I'm having with my children now, is around monkeypox. And it's helping them to understand that, yes, it's very easy to want to lay down on the surface. It's very easy to want to rub your arm across, the meat counter, the glass. Kids just got to have it to want to touch the weirdest stuff, right? Like when they in certain places. And I have to remind them that you can have someone that is exposed to, monkeypox, and you literally touch one of the surfaces that they touch, and bam, you got it. I say the thing is we've been seeing an increase in cases now. I don't think we've been seeing nothing because these kids ain't went back to school yet, and we don't think about how much contact they have with each other. And you don't know who could have potentially picked it up from home and came to school and spread it. So we have to be conscious about the fact that we are only one touch away from getting some sort of illness. It's also making sure, too, that parents think about their kids' immune systems. So am I making sure that my kid is getting, maybe a dose of vitamin C when I start to see that they got sniffles, or they tell me that Sally's been out of school because she's been sick. So it's very important for us to think through what are things that we can do, that we have been doing to keep our children safe, especially now. Some of us have gotten our children vaccine boosted and are even more concerned because there is no vaccine or booster at this point. So now is the time for us to go back to studying those stringent but most important behaviors to go along with what we hope to still be the vaccine's effectiveness inside of our bodies that is left. But as of right now, hand hygiene, proper masking, physically distancing, boosting your immune system, understanding if the schools themselves are practicing protocols, but most importantly, make sure that you are practicing safety with your kids and helping them to understand why it is important.
Dr. Shanina Knighton, everybody. Hey, Dr. Nina. That's her handle, HEYDRNINA. Go on and check her out. She's got some great information for you. Let's talk about Carolyn Donham. That's right. The woman who fingered Emmett Till and Ahmaud Arbery and President Trump. Back in a minute. Thank you, sweetie. How you doing?
Listen to the Tom Hartman radio program every weekday from 11 to 2 right here on
Honey, just
WCPT 820.
Little pressed
where
this morning, but I'm good.
matter.
No complaints.
The Takedown
Just,
with Cliff Schechter.
Not sure what you spent your
Just had some
weekend doing.
unexpected
Maybe a
this
place
week,
to golf.
right?
Maybe you watched some TV. Maybe you went out for a run.
My aunt
lazy ass
passed,
senator from Florida,
and it
spent his
just
weekend
kinda
complaining that he had to go
took
back to
me-
Washington and vote on a
took
bill
me
that
back
became
a
the most
few paces,
groundbreaking bill on climate change. It's the most we've ever done on climate
That's
change.
it.
He was in Miami, a
Yeah,
city that
I know.
will potentially be underwater in 20 years. He complained about that. He complained about all the other
One of those
investments,
things.
bulk negotiating for
pulled up
Medicare
a picture of her
lowers
last night.
prices. I mean, this is an incredible piece of legislation. He
I might
complained
post it, I
flight was
don't know.
canceled when we were right. He works 171 days a year. He works
He was a
4 days a
wonderful
week.
person.
And then he made sure to fit in his spare time
Wonderful
and attack
person.
controlled source because anti-Semitism really riles
So, but
up
how are
the
you
Nazi
doing?
base,
Otherwise,
rationalized
yes, you
right
can hear
base,
him
maybe they'll
pulling
forget you're
things
human
up.
men and just hate Jews. Play the beginning for Marco Rubio. He sucks. Let's vote for Valdemix.
I
Hear
know
more from
I
Cliff
can't.
at
I can barely hear you with this
heartlandsingle.com
stuff going.
and
I've got the
subscribe to his
stuff I've got
YouTube
going in
page.
the background.
This is
And with all this.
WCPT
But
820.
let's
where
when you
facts
have time,
matter.
let's get some time to get caught up.
You're listening to WCPT 820.
I would love to
Here's
do that.
the latest Chicago traffic
I've
and
seen
weather
so much. I
updates.
said, I got to call Dr. Knight, and then boom.
On the
And something
inbound
else
Kennedy,
happened. How
traffic
about
is
that?
slow from Nagel to Lawrence. The travel time will head to downtown Chicago. It's now 24 minutes. Outbound, it's 19.
What you say, hon?
On Eisenhower, drivers hit the brakes.
I said the background is loud, like I hear
It's
all
36 minutes from
I
390
know.
to downtown. Outbound
the weather
25.
and the time.
Mount Stevenson.
Well, you know
It's
what?
gotten heavy.
We'll do
Delays
that. We'll
Harlan
do this
Kelsey.
offline.
49 minutes from the Veterans
I
Memorial
have a
to Sable
newborn
Lakeshore
operator.
Drive.
He's
Outbound 22.
trying to learn the show.
Line delays kicking around 35th Street at 17 minutes
Okay.
from 95th
All
to
right, honey.
downtown.
Love
Station
you.
40 inbound, just a little congested, 103rd to the merge. Northbound Tri-State, there's a delay from the Grand Avenue curve to the Bensonville Bridge. Westbound Adams Tollway at Savvy Johnson before Genoa Road with a vehicle fire in the two right lanes. I'm Jim Talamonte.
Here's the latest Chicago weather update. Mostly sunny skies here for today with a high in the mid 80s. Winds out of the north around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, increasing cloud cover, a low near 69. Thursday, skies will become mostly sunny, high of 79 degrees. Then on Friday, mostly sunny skies, a high of 79. Saturday, partial sunshine develops, high of 81. Sunday, partly sunny, high of 82. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 63.
This is Elliot Richardson from the Small Business Advocacy Council. The SBAC is working with an incredible group of chambers of commerce and community organizations to revitalize struggling business districts in disadvantaged Chicago communities. Many neighborhood business districts are plagued by vacancies and a lack of business activity. This greatly harms local communities, residents, and negatively impacts public safety. Our coalition fights for policies that will reduce vacancies in struggling communities. We fight to cut needless red tape so that small businesses.
Okay, so far I have Shapiro, CK, and Aaron Connolly on.
Reduce costs
Okay,
for
thank
small
you.
businesses and property owners that want
Do you want me to put them through now?
Yes, if you can turn down the radio so that I can hear them.
local investment.
Oh, yes, so sorry.
Communities. Let's fill vacant storefronts in disadvantaged communities. Let's revitalize neighborhood business districts. Learn more and join our grassroots movement to revitalize disadvantaged
CK?
neighborhood business districts in Cook County and Chicago by visiting sbacil.org. That's sbacil.org.
Suck it up.
It's not a big deal.
Snap out.
Just get over it.
We've all
We got about 30.
you're
Okay.
experiencing extreme
I can.
stress.
Are they
It's not
up?
just in your head.
They should be.
Okay.
Check.
CK?
Toxic stress can hurt us physically without us even knowing.
If you're not responding,
She got
which
dropped.
means something's
Aaron's
not happening.
Let me call back
Okay.
CK.
Trouble making it through the day. If you're feeling the effects of stress, we can help. Text stress to 211-211 to find a solution.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. We have got a lot to talk about today as we move into legal Q&A with CK. A lot. We're extending it today because we've got three big cases to look at. Of course, we had the primaries yesterday. Ilhan pulled off a big win. So did Mandela Barnes up in Wisconsin, but a lot of President Trump's people won too. So, as we discuss these cases, I want to hear from you what you think about that, because President Trump's people are winning from state to state. He's winning the vast majority. His supporters are winning the vast majority of his races. We're going to be talking about this simmering hatred that's coming out online in the wake of the raid on his home by the FBI. And so I want to know what your thoughts are about that. I want to know what your thoughts, you all. I'm welcoming people from all over the political spectrum, because a lot of people approach this from a lot of different spaces and places. It's very interesting as I listen to these Trump supporters who feel that there has been government overreach. It's interesting, because they are from the so-called right. Not all of them are from the right. That's why we have to be a lot more, we have to have much more nuance in our political analysis. Because as someone who comes from the so-called left, as someone who comes from the civil rights movement, the FBI was anathema to us. I mean, you have to understand, before we knew what a troublesome and really wicked figure J. Edgar Hoover was, those of us in the civil rights movement knew it. We knew that he had planted people in Dr. King's organization and the Urban League and the NAACP. They had participated in a lot of violent acts. We knew that they were not our friends. We knew that. And we knew that they had lots of black informants, and we knew they were not our friends. We just found out, I think, as I talked to my father, my mother, and other people who worked for Dr. King, it was just after Dr. King was killed that you found out that the top finance man in SCLC was an FBI informant. And the person who broke up his last march, first time one of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's march, the only time it turned violent, it was a young black man who was a Morehouse man who was with the American intelligence community. So I get it, everybody. But in this case with President Trump, what we need to do is find out what he's being accused of. That's being muddied in the waters with this excitement to finally go gotcha with him. I don't think that's the right approach. I really don't. I think that we need to find out what the issues are, how it is that the FBI came to investigate. They went to Mar-a-Lago twice. President Trump, according to press reports, even showed them where these documents were being held. Why didn't they take them then? There are a lot of questions I have. Then Carolyn Bryant Donham. Who is she? She's the woman who went out with her husband and brother-in-law and fingered Emmett Till. Yeah. That's what the investigations are found. And the investigations also found, thank heavens for his family, they went to the basement of a courthouse in Mississippi in June and found her arrest warrant. Now, there was an arrest warrant for her husband. There was an arrest warrant for her brother-in-law, and not for the other men involved, because there were a lot of people involved in picking up Emmett Till. But there was one for her. It was never executed because the authorities in Mississippi didn't want to bother her. They didn't want to trouble this lovely Southern flower. And so 67 years later, we want justice. And a grand jury has declined to indict her. Wow. And then Ahmaud Arbery. Many people expect black people to always forgive. Oh, you all are such a forgiving people. No, we're excusing people, because if we were very forgiving, we'd have a lot of peace in our hearts. And there's a lot of pain here. So Ahmaud Arbery's father did something that many of us just, it was interesting. He turned to the father of his son's murderer and said, "I do not forgive you." We're going to talk about that. We got a lot to deal with on Legal Q&A with CK. And so I'm just really, really excited that we have you, attorney CK Hoffler, with us. But first, we have to get to celebrations by us with Chaparral Wells. I finally got my greens. I've finally got my oxtails this past weekend. And I'm still so happy. Who do we have now, Henry? Do we have Chaparral?
We do not have Chaparral.
Okay, well, let us bring her back, and we'll bring her back at the top of the hour. Let me go on and get started with CK Hoffler. Attorney CK Hoffler, we've got 3 big cases that we need to deal with. And Henry, I need you to get Attorney Darrell Jones on, because he was in the courtroom with Ahmaud Arbery's family. Indeed, he is someone who, he and Attorney Barbara Arnwine, before it became a big case, Attorney CK Hoffler, before it became a big case, they were all over it. They were down there trying to get attention to the Ahmaud Arbery case. Let's start there. Why was no attention paid to this? It seems that there was a cover-up. The prosecutor told the McMichaels that they needed to go home and wash up, cleanse themselves of his blood. What happened here?
Well, Santita, I mean, this case, before it was in vogue, because, initially when Ahmaud Arbery was killed, many people thought that he did wrong. They felt that it was, that this was a classic stand your ground and that he was running away. He had committed a crime and that this was a great sort of citizen's arrest, if you will. And because he had been so combative, they had no choice but to kill him. That was a narrative that was circulated throughout Georgia. And people thought it was self-defense. They thought he was big, he was bad, and he was terrifying these three people who were just protecting their neighborhood from someone who was a thief, a criminal. So the narrative with the prosecutor who initially declined to prosecute the case, she, at the scene of the incident, because she had had a previous relationship with the father, McMichael, at the scene of, he called her and she communicated with them, and she also communicated with the police officers and told them to stand down. She told them to go home, take a shower, and then when they were ready, just come to the police station and give a statement. Now, the reason why that is so critically important is that when you're at the scene of a crime and the people who allegedly, ostensibly committed the crime or were involved in the crime, you don't send them home to destroy evidence, because their clothing, the blood-stained clothing, the gun, everything is evidence when there's a proper investigation. But yet she directed them to do that. And she directed other things too. She obstructed justice. And those are the allegations that she's being prosecuted relative to, because of her very destructive and obstructionist role that she played right there, right at the scene of Ahmaud Arbery's murder. So, to bring it full circle at the sentencing of the McMichaels recently, typically at a sentencing hearing, when there are impact statements, that's what we call them, impact statements, when their family and friends and people connected to the victim will stand up and they will address typically the court. The impact statements are designed because at the sentencing phase, in many jurisdictions, the judge handles the sentencing. In many jurisdictions. And some jurisdictions, it is the jury that handles the sentencing. Whoever the trier fact is for the sentencing phase, whoever that is, the judge or the jury, or both, you typically address your comments to that entity. But in what I think was so compelling and what people have noted was Ahmaud Arbery turned to the father, to Greg McMichael, and said, listen, I don't like you. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. I don't respect you as a man, as a father, because your son had the hate because you put the hate in his heart. And now you've got another generation, his 3-year-old child, who also is growing up in this cycle of hatred, of racial animus. That was what was different. Sometimes, people do that. I will be very candid. Sometimes people do that. But the judge reminds people to address their comments to the court. And sometimes, victims, family members do turn around. They look at the assailants. They look at the defendants. They look, because at this point, the people have been convicted. This is just the sentencing phase. How long are they going to serve? And that's what he did. And it was like a knife you could see in his heart turning. You could just feel and sense that. So that is why many people have focused on the father, because after all, it was the father and the mother who led the crusade for justice against that prosecutor who obstructed justice and got her removed and got an alternative person. The community voted in an alternative prosecutor. It was the parents that were, and the father in particular, in the earlier stages on this point, he was insistent knowing what happened to his child. And was fed lies, by the way, by that same prosecutor, Jennifer Johnson. So, Santita, when we look at the Ahmaud Arbery sentencing, this case continues on because, we've already had the sentencing and the trial for the state case. We had the trial for the hate crime case, which is a federal case, but this is the sentencing phase. Mm-hmm. And that's what it was when they were sentenced to life in prison.
Well, you know what? So, we do have, we do have Attorney Darrell Jones with us now.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. And I thank you for for really helping to shape this for us, attorney C.K. Hoffler. Of course, it's Wednesday, so it's legal Q&A with C.K. And of course, C.K. Hoffler, attorney C.K. Hoffler, had her show yesterday on WAOK at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We urge you to listen to her every Tuesday. And of course, attorney Daryl Jones is on WOL and on BarbaraArnwine.com with attorney Barbara Arnwine. Of course, she's the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition. And they are on at noon Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday. You were in court with the Arbery family. And as CK just described for us, and we want to welcome, of course, Dwight McKee and attorney Aaron Connolly and attorney Robert Patillo also to the show as we really go through all of these cases that are just, my goodness, they really say so much about the culture, historically and currently. Attorney Daryl Jones, I was struck, and clearly you were too, because you brought it up yesterday, that Ahmaud Arbery's father looked at the father of his son's murderer and said, I do not forgive you. Wow. I mean, I put that in sharp contrast with our brothers and sisters from South Carolina, who, after they were massacred in the church at Mother Bethel, they went to court almost immediately and said, we forgive you. And I get it. It's the church community. I said, but forgiveness, it takes time. It's a process. God bless them. But there's a lot of trauma that we have absorbed and that family, that the Arbery's have absorbed. Please describe what happened.
Oh yeah. Good morning, Santita.
Good morning.
CK was certainly on point with the description of what happened. That poignant moment in the courtroom where Marcus Arbery did turn to Gregory McMichael and to say to him, as a father, I don't like you. The hate that you've instilled in your son is the hate that your son would instill in his 3-year-old son. And so, the whole statement, the whole exchange was just an incredibly powerful moment. But I tell you, it didn't really stop there. There was just so many things that were happening inside that courtroom. At one point, the attorneys for the defendants, one of the attorneys for the defendants tried to draw a parallel, tried to have the sentence reduced in consideration of this killing, arguing that there was a comparison that existed between the death of George Floyd under the knee of Derek Chauvin and the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, saying that in both cases that somehow the McMichaels were the equivalent of Chauvin, and there just was no parallelism that was there for what they were arguing. Of course, for one, we know that with Derek Chauvin, he was a police officer and was called out to a crime scene and did what he did. In this case, there was no crime that was committed or anything else. So that was just an incredibly offensive moment when the defense attorney raised that argument. But I tell you what really lifted the ire of Marcus Arbery and many of us that were in the courtroom, and that is when the defense attorneys for all three of the killers argued to the court that they should have their sentences served in the federal system over the state system, because their position was that they feared for their safety in the state system, that the state system they didn't believe could catch them, could take care of them. So they wanted to be in the federal system because they thought they would be safer in the federal system, that there would be more amenities for the one that isn't doing well physically, with the various illnesses that he has, that the federal system would make his time easier and better for him than the state system. And Marcus Arbery, Ahmaud's dad, laid it out so nicely when he said that they were asking for the court to have mercy on them and to respect the fear that they had of the state court system, the state penal system, when they did not give Ahmaud that same consideration, that he was afraid, that he was in fear, that they chased him, and then they cornered and killed him. So Marcus Arbery would say to the judge that they should rot in jail, that they should benefit of not being feared the same way that they did not respect the fear that they placed Ahmaud in. And the judge, and much to her credit, certainly was listening to everything that Marcus Arbery said, that Wanda Cooper Jones, the mother, said, as well as all the aunties and uncle that testified during the sentencing on Ahmaud's part. And it was hearing all of that I believe that Judge Woods then decided the sentence. And did remark how they how the three defendants did not take into consideration Ahmaud's fear. And she also, as CK just pointed out, she also referred back to, you were judged by a jury of your...
Oh, we just lost you. You said you were judged by what? I'm sorry, we lost you for a hot second.
That you were judged by all of this, by a jury of your peers. And they made that decision that you decided to kill Ahmaud Arbery because he was black and in your community. That was the reason you decided to kill him. And, Santita, in hearing the judge say this, in hearing Marcus Arbery raise the, just make it plain with regards to what had happened in that situation, was just, another just extremely powerful moment of watching what was happening. And, your dad, Reverend Jackson, was there in the courtroom. And after the case, he made what I thought was just a brilliant observation about it all. And one of the things Reverend Jackson said was, what we saw happen in that courtroom was a jury that has convicted these three white men of killing this black man in the Deep South. And this was the new South. That this jury makeup and everything that was going on, this would be a new day forward. This is not the old South. This is the new. And this is the new pattern and where we must go as a society in trying to be equal and equality in the application of the law. So it was just a very powerful experience and a very powerful moment in American history. So, Cynthia, those are some of those observations that came out of that courthouse.
Dwight McKee, what do you think about that? I mean, because I think it's kind of stunning that the father made that, Mr. Arbery made that kind of statement to his son's murderer. Dwight, your thoughts?
Well, the stunning part is that there was a conviction to be spoken to in the first place. That's what makes the New South, because historically, white men have had impunity when they've killed black men and black women. And so the fact that they did have a trial, it got past the prosecutor trying to obfuscate the trial, were able to convict the perpetrators and then sentence them to real sentences is really a enigma in the South, particularly when you look at what happened to the Emmett Till case, where nobody went to jail. They had a trial, and it was a mock trial. And so I think that it was an opportunity for Arbery's father to really speak to the pain and the trials of black men through the generations. And that he spoke for the thousands of men who had been lynched and nobody prosecuted, and the thousands of men who had been murdered over the years and nobody had been arrested, and just the 300 to 400 years of just bigotry and hatred and ravaged by these people of based on color and color only, he was able to speak to that pain. It's the pain of generations, and that's what made it such a poignant moment, I think.
That is powerful. I've got a couple of minutes here, Robert Patillo. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that it's crucial that we put this into context, that this entire thing, this entire case, never would have made the type of national attention that it did. We never would have got to these convictions. We never would have had the justice that was served without it being on video. And we have to move to a place in our criminal justice system where black men are believed without it being recorded. But for William Roddy Bryan recording this, then this will just be another one of those cases in the Deep South that work their way into urban legend without the justice being served. And in our system, till this day, black men will proclaim their innocence, and they will not be believed unless there's some sort of corroborating evidence or even be investigated. Black pain is still dismissed often and still looked upon in a suspect manner. Unless we're going to start having black men carry a drone around with them 24/7 to record their every move, we have to find a way to evolve our criminal justice system to a point where their word is believed the same as a white woman's word is believed in a courtroom, where their tears are valued by America just as much as the tears of a white woman are valued in America. And it's, for some reason, it's controversial to say that, but it's not controversial for the system to still operate in such a way. And for Mr. Arbery to say that I do not forgive you, forgiveness cannot be forced. Forgiveness has to be earned. And these individuals who are asking for forgiveness and mercy and everything else right now, would they be asking for that forgiveness if they had not been convicted? At any point in time, were they going to simply stand up and go forward and say, look, this is what we did, we apologize for it, we know that what we did was wrong and that we need to be going before the criminal justice system and volunteering ourselves? No, they would not have. So the idea that somehow they simply deserve forgiveness because now they got caught, I don't think that is a right that they can demand, and on no sort of indulgence that has to be extended towards them. With regards to policy going forward, we have to start working towards better oversight of prosecutors. There are 2 prosecutors in Georgia right now who are either on trial or recently have been convicted of corruption. This is pervasive within the system. We all know that there's not just a 2-tier justice system, but a multi-tiered justice system. And most of it is held on to by those local district attorneys and state's attorneys and their ability and their relationships both with the judges on the bench, officers on the force, where they are able to act with nearly carte blanche when it comes to local matters. And we have to create more oversight upon them. During election season, I know everyone gets very excited about what's going on the presidential level, what's going on in Congress, and what the governor and what the senators are doing. You need to pay attention to those local races, things such as Superior Court judge, state court judge, district attorney, and the sheriff. Those local things are the ones that are going to impact you on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And if the same way that we mobilize to quote unquote stop Trump, you have to mobilize to stop corrupt DAs and members of the criminal justice system on the state and local level, because those are the people who have that direct impact on your life. Don't worry about what's going on in Mar-a-Lago if you're not worried about what's going on down at the State House and down at the City Hall. You got to pay attention on the local level.
You need to know. You need to know. And we'll be talking about Carolyn Bryant Donham. They found an arrest warrant for her. She's the woman who fingered Emmett Till. She's responsible for his lynching. She's not been indicted. And what about President Trump? Back in a minute. Aaron, are you there?
I am still here.
Fantastic. Okay. And Chaparral, you're there? Is Chaparral still there?
Yeah, I just put it through now.
Okay, Chaparral?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, well, we come back. I'm going to go through my live read for Team Hochberg, and then I'm going to come to you. It'll be a tight minute, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. You can say hello to everybody.
And I want to say good morning to I was just going to say good morning to everybody. Good morning to everybody. Chapearl, to Aaron, to Dwight, to Daryl, to everyone. Good morning.
Okay, CK, you have the run of show, yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, all right. Okay, everybody, but keep talking. We are back up on Facebook, yay, and YouTube, yay, as my nephews say.
Yay.
Yusef's son say, yay, Jesus, yay, God, yay. While they're coming through their prayers, we're like, huh, that's right, yay for Jesus. Are we supposed to cheer for Jesus? You're like, yes.
But Santita, do they also say, like my kids used to say, when they did something wrong, they'd say, oopsie.
No, they're not. They're not that far along in the process. Unless my mother is frightening them, which Grandma Jackie will do. Because
but I'm talking about something real serious, like a real serious something they did.
I'm saying, girl, anything. And when Mom comes in, their eyes get big and they get very quiet because Grandma Jackie does not play, and she told them that I don't play with children. I said, go ahead, Mom, frighten them to death like you did for us. It worked. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, it worked. It worked. But it's amazing. Daryl, it's one thing to see these trials on TV, but it's another thing to be in the courtroom. And I mean, just to have been there at that moment when that man said to his son's murderer. Oof. And Dwight made the point. He just spoke for. That was almost like a 500-year vent. Like, no, I got a problem with you, buddy. You raised a murderer. You did that. And now your son has implanted that same hate, I am sure, in his child. Because they don't even think they're wrong. That's what's so scary. It's like they're clueless.
Well, Santita, William Bodie thought that he was doing something good.
Okay.
The court turn it over because he was doing something good. They captured somebody who was terrorizing their community. He wanted to have it on video and turn it over. Something good. They didn't see anything wrong with that at all. That's the irony of all of this. It's the irony of all of this. But it's a reminder of how much work we have to do because this is one case, one example. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of examples like this of Black men and Black women. There are many Black women, by the way, who were tortured, raped repeatedly over and over and over again. Whose cries to help were never heard.
Well, because have you read the book At the Dark End of the Street? All of you, and Aaron and CK, read it. This is something I think we need to talk about because it goes through the career in many respects at the beginning of Rosa Parks and what drove her. And she was the state secretary for the NAACP when it was illegal to be a member. But her activism was driven by the rapes, the unprosecuted sexual assaults, rapes of Black women. She would investigate them herself. She said every time she looked in the mirror, she saw that she was evidence of abuse. Okay? Because, when you get to Africa, we'll be called mixed race. And it makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I don't resent any of my relatives because had none of them been here, I don't care who they are, I wouldn't be here. But I'm like, wait a minute. Do you know how we got this way? And many of them don't know. It's just like, whew. Oh my gosh. It's a lot.
Well, Santita, a lot of people know theoretically how we got this way, but it's a part of history. That's the shame of how, to sit and talk about how we got this way. It would be, in many respects, admitting that rape was a part of your family, that rape was and not a distant part of your family, 2 generations maybe, or 1 generation.
Or multiple.
Multiple generations, and repeated rape, not just so I think it's not that some people don't know and have forgotten. That's just something that you don't want to highlight. You don't want to.
1 minute.
Pain that is carried forward. I mean, there's a lot of pain carried forward. Ahmaud Arbery, pain that people are feeling for him. Marcus Arbery's pain, his mother's pain carried forward. The mothers, how many mothers sat where she sat in that position?
Mothers.
How many fathers sat?
That's right. And fathers who felt powerless to defend their children. It's like, are you serious? Ooh, it's a lot. Well, we're going to get on to Carolyn Bryant and Trump and Dwight and his brilliant observation that this changed the narrative back to gave the narrative has given advantage to Republicans once again. I'm like, how did this happen? How? Woo.
10 seconds.
Stand by. Oh.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, AM 950 radio. Hey Matt, up there, you all had a big night in Minnesota. Of course, John Nichols had a big night up in Wisconsin, Vermont, and Connecticut. They all had primaries yesterday, and boy, was it something. We're talking about, we've been talking about Ahmaud Arbery. There was further sentencings in his murder case. And so we've been talking about that with Attorney Darrell Jones, chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, who was in the courtroom with the family. He and Attorney Barbara Arnwine and Reverend Jesse Jackson and others were right there. We've been talking about that. Carolyn Bryant Donham, the woman who fingered Emmett Till, but not for her. He wouldn't have been lynched. She identified him. She went out on the truck with her husband and her brother-in-law and looked all night long to find the young man, the boy, who had offended her. And of course, we find the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill has been holding her memoirs, which contradict what she said to the police. And then we find out that there was an arrest warrant filed for her that police would not deliver to her because they didn't want to bother her. Wow. They had an opportunity to indict her, Mississippi, once again, and they refused. So we got to talk about that. And then President Trump, what about the simmering hatred and anger that we're hearing now in the wake of the raid on his home? Why didn't the FBI grab the papers when they could have, when he showed them where they were? A lot of questions we have on the Santita Jackson Show. So let's get to some of these headlines so that we can get to the rest of the show. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 79 degrees today. It's a beautiful sunny day already. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 86 degrees and sunny. The Dow closed down 58 points yesterday. The S&P closed down 17 points. The NASDAQ closed down 150 points. In Major League Baseball, the White Sox bested the Royals 3-2. The Nationals 6-5 over the Cubs, and the Dodgers 10-7 over the Twins. The Storm, well, they bested the Sky yesterday, 111-100, and the Lynx will be playing the Mercury tonight. What about these primaries in Wisconsin, in Minnesota, and Vermont, and Connecticut? They were noteworthy, everybody. Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, 35 years of age, African-American. He won the Democratic nomination hands down and will face Ron Johnson in one of the most competitive races in the country. How will they do? Of course, in Vermont, the retirement of Senator Patrick Leahy, who was first elected in 1974, creates a rare open seat. Representative Peter Welch was projected to win the Democratic nomination according to the AP and will be heavily favored in November in this blue state. Connecticut Republicans selected Leora Levy, who had former President Donald Trump's backing, to challenge Senator Richard Blumenthal. And in Minnesota, Ilhan Omar one of the leading members of the squad. She had a tight race, but she hung on anyway. She's projected to win the Democratic nomination for the 5th Congressional District of Minnesota, according to the AP, narrowly defeating Don Samuels in a tight race that stunned both campaigns. Some people were shocked that it was so close, but guess what? She did win. She did win. And so we're going to be continuing to watch what's going to happen in these two big battle states. Of course, every vote in every state does matter. Everything does count. But, Wisconsin and Minnesota, they're kind of interesting. President Trump is expected to be deposed by lawyers from the New York Attorney General's office later today regarding an investigation into the Trump Organization's finances. It is currently unknown whether the former president will answer any questions. The deposition comes after the FBI search of President Trump's residences in Florida on Monday signaled an extraordinary escalation of the probe into the handling of White House documents from his presidency. Those are just some of the headlines for today. So, you know what? We have been talking about financial freedom for everybody in this time of inflation, the likes of which we have not seen in more than 40 years. We've seen a reset. We're talking about gas prices falling. Okay. But see, there was a reset because now the new normal is $5 and $6 and $7 and $8 a gallon. So now if it's $4, we're praising the heavens for it. And they're arbitrarily set, these prices, by big oil. We need to think about that. In the meantime, it's lightening our pockets, and it is standing in the way of us and home ownership and sending our children to school and paying down student loan debt and on and on. So if you want financial freedom, I want you to call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID or visit 56david.com, 855-56-DAVID or visit 56david.com. If you have high credit card debt, if you have wrecked credit, if you need to repair your credit, if you need to build your credit, if you really are looking for a way out and up, call them. If you want to purchase a new home, if you want to formulate a plan to get your down payment together and get your credit together to get your home, call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID. If you want to refinance your existing home, secure a VA loan, find out about reverse mortgages and see if they are for you, call Team Hochberg. Everybody, Tom and Sonia. 2 kids, 17 credit cards, $100,000 worth of debt. They could not get out from under, everybody. So they called Team Hochberg. They got an FHA loan after they told them everything in that free consultation. They told them everything, everybody. They've heard it all. And they came up with a plan to pay off their 17 credit cards, lowering their payments by $2,800 a month. Oh, think about it, everybody. That could be you. So call Team Hochberg. It could be you. You could get out from underneath all of this crushing debt, but you're going to need some help to do it. 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit them at 56david.com, 56david.com. And we have got to get some good food. I finally got my oxtails and my greens this weekend. I'm so very happy. Thank you, Chaparral. Celebrations by us. Is Chaparral there? Let's bring her up. Okay,
She should be.
I gave her all that runway. Chaparral, you there? Okay, let's find out what's going on. Henry, in the meantime, let me go on and move on so that I can go on and get this segment started. What about CK? What about Carolyn Bryant Donham? What about her? She is the woman who, at 21 years of age, went out with her. She worked in her family store. And she says this, or the word went forth that this young, sassy black boy, 14 years of age, Emmett Louis Till from Chicago, Illinois, who was visiting with his family, as we often did, as we used to do. I used to do that with my family in the South. That he whistled at her, he sassed her, that he basically sexually harassed her. Now, according to her accounts today, it didn't quite happen that way. And according to records from 67 years ago, there was an arrest warrant filed for her, in addition to her husband and her brother-in-law. And no one talks about all the men who were in that barn torturing this boy and what they did to torture him. I'm sure it was sexual in nature. And I keep bringing that up, CK, because that is how they do what they do. You know what I'm saying? I think it's important for us to just look at the heinous nature of all of this. But they found the family, they've been digging and digging because they have been trying to hold the people who were involved accountable. And no one was more accountable than Carolyn Bryant Donham. Now she says 67 years later that she too was a victim. You don't know how hard my life was. Okay, this lovely flower from Mississippi. And there was an opportunity that Mississippi had to kind of make things, to have some justice, to have some accountability. Let's put it that way. But they refused to indict her. CK, please explain that.
Well, again, Santita, sometimes you can't really explain the inexplicable.
Okay.
So they went based on the new evidence, which is significant evidence. A warrant that was never served, that was never executed, based also on the fact that she does have this memoir, and there are parts of the memoir and information in the memoir that evidently have been leaked. After 7 hours of a grand jury that was impaneled hearing information, hearing testimony, hearing the basis upon which she could have been indicted, they refused. They felt that there was not sufficient evidence. And I would say, Mississippi's been batting 1,000 for bad stuff. I mean, the overturning of, Roe versus Wade and other things happening in Mississippi. But there have been some good things happening in Mississippi, but this is not one of them. Because in this case, Santita, justice delayed is justice denied. But I know that Emmett Till's family read a lot of statements by family members that are still fighting, that are still on the crusade to hold accountable those people who are responsible for his murder. For his tragic and heinous acts of cowardice committed against him. And so this is just another blow to the family because we know that the Justice Department also declined previously to prosecute this case further, to prosecute in any way. And this is fairly recent. There have been many attempts to get the Justice Department's attention to to look at the evidence anew and to see if there was enough there for them to indict, and the Justice Department has declined. So this is another blow to the family, but they're not stopping. And, when people are involved in heinous crimes, after the fact, 60 years later, saying my life has not been easy either. Well, no one, just as with Ahmaud Arbery, where was all of that compassion and feeling at the time when this was happening? I understand she was 21 years of age, but she knew the difference between right or wrong 67 years ago. She knew what she was doing, what she was involved in was wrong, and had many opportunities to try to hold accountable to make that wrong right, but yet she didn't. So I'm not being lenient on her. I'm not giving her a pass because she does have a memoir. She could step forward. She had the ability and the power to set the record straight. Of course, nobody wants to incriminate oneself, but if you are living with the pain and with the guilt, there are many things that you can do about that, and she chose not to do that. And I'm sure her family and her lawyers advised her not to do anything more than she's done. But having said that, this is justice definitely denied, Santita. It's the inexplicable. You can't, sometimes there is no justification. There is no explanation for certain acts such as this. And the only thing that we can continue to do is to fight for justice, continue to try to unturn new evidence, find new evidence that could maybe garner the Justice Department or get the Justice Department's attention, because I think the best bet is for the Justice Department, this Justice Department, to delve into some of this new information and to hopefully push so that there can be justice. There's still more information out there. And maybe one day, someday, hopefully soon, that information will come to light and it will be sufficient for someone to be indicted, for someone to be held accountable. Because, as again I said, justice delayed in this case has been justice denied for this family and for this country. It's not just the family. The family is the vessel through which the pain is felt every day because they have constant reminders. But all of us, each of us is impacted by Emmett Till, especially in the Black community. We're impacted by this. And the wound is not closing.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't closed at all. Well, of course, joining you on your legal Q&A with CK segment, Attorney Robert Patillo, Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push, along with you. You both have shows on WAOK. His is from Sunday 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. Yours is at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time every Tuesday. We've got Attorney Darrell Jones, Chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition. He and Barbara Arnwine have a show on WOL, and it streams on barbaraarnwine.com every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Dwight McKee, brilliant social scientist, who's with us today. And of course, Attorney Aaron Connolly. Aaron, we've heard from everybody but you. What do you make of this? When we see Carolyn Bryant, and I'm not giving this to you because you are a white woman, but I think you also have some unique insights as a white woman, just as I have some insights as a black woman, right? What do you make of this case? Because according to D. Ray Jones, one of my morning stars, she said a few weeks back, Carolyn Bryant and her son were seen at a barbecue in her area. She said it's just unbelievable. And she's been allowed to skate. You see a whole system that has protected her. Her memoirs have been held, not by the police, but at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. This is one of the most respected universities on earth. And her arrest warrant was kept in the basement that no one found in a Mississippi courthouse basement. And then when it's all been finally brought to light, when you see the contradictions, the lies that she has told, they're not going to do anything with her at all. At all. Nothing at all. She's just going to go right off into the sunset. What do you make of that? And I think it impacts all Americans when you see this kind of injustice. It's, when I hear about President Trump's supporters, bless them, as they are talking about government overreach, I'm like, wow, you all sound like civil rights workers from, your experience in many respects reflects a lot of what we've been through. Not the same reasoning, but they're sounding an awful lot like us. But what do you make of this case? No indictment.
The Emmett Till case. My goodness,
what is it?
It over and over again, it's a haunting case of injustice, and the fact that this woman went on with her life, was able to live a full life, that is able to go to barbecues without being ostracized by her community, that she has not taken responsibility. As you mentioned, she is writing her memoirs of this. She's still free to turn herself in, to take responsibility, to try to create some semblance of justice after this poor little boy was murdered and tortured because of her. She incited a mob. She directed them. She was part of the conspiracy. And this is every person's worst nightmare. As a mother, you think about this little boy, and I think about the bravery of her showing the world what happened to her son with that open casket. And what I wish we would do more of in the media is to put the pictures of Emmett Till that show his humanity as well, and show how this was not long ago. People like to look at that black and white picture and, think that it was, a century ago that this happened. This was not. This woman is still alive right now and is awaiting her justice still. I don't believe she will be charged. I'm appalled that the university at Chapel Hill would sponsor this type of book. I think without having any sort of accountability, it's another slap in the face for Emmett Till's family, who have endured torture since his murder over and over again at the denial of justice. So this case is heartbreaking, and I hope bringing some attention to the fact that she is still walking this earth without consequences creates enough tension for people to fully grasp what's happening, but also maybe there's enough pressure that she will actually have to serve some sort of sentence for her participation in the murder of a young boy. It haunts me truly.
It is haunting. I mean, and Robert Patillo, you're a member of the media. The media have put no pressure upon her at all. I mean, they've buried the story. Got a couple of minutes.
Absolutely. It's funny because you mentioned that Aaron Connolly comes from a perspective of a white woman. I forgot Aaron was white so long ago. Like, I think she got like an official invite to the barbecue.
No, she's just human. She's human and she's humane. You know, I mean, because I don't think white people should apologize for being white any more than I should be apologize for being black. It's just take your experience and would you become humane, please? Hello? How about that?
Exactly. And we will save her a plate from Chaparral next time, just to make sure. But I think that it's crucial that we keep this conversation going in the outlets that we have, because just as what happened with Emmett Till when he was initially murdered, it was black publications that published a picture. It was black media that kept the story going. It was black families that ensured that this became part of the cultural zeitgeist, to the point that you have Nina Simone singing Mississippi Goddamn, to the point that you have Kanye West 50 years later saying, I'm scared because I'll be in the casket looking like Emmett Till, that it becomes part of what America understands to be the Cassia Belli for the entire movement for social justice and social change and civil rights. And similarly today, we have to keep that conversation going. I think the majority of the population have no idea that the woman involved in that murder is still alive. It's taught in our schools, if it's taught at all, as if it happened somehow, a couple of days after the Civil War or something like that. No, this is within living memory of people who are alive and well today. There are still folks I talk to all the time in Chicago who talk about knowing this young man. And with this woman, for some reason wanted to skip directly to forgiveness. You can't skip to forgiveness and skip over accountability. Just as we were talking about with the McMichaels and Mr. Bryant wanting forgiveness for what they did, they only want forgiveness because they got caught. They weren't going to volunteer themselves for justice if they had not been caught. Similarly, this woman wants forgiveness, but would she be asking for? But would she have to simply come forward if she had not been caught in what she did? And so I think that if she really wants forgiveness from the community to die with a clear heart and clear conscience, she should show directly up at the police station and say, "Book me in and try me for what I did." I think that is what you have to do if you really did truly want forgiveness before, and so you can go to the grave with a clear heart and clear mind. But anything less than that, we have to keep up the fight, keep up the pressure, and demand the justice we served. We've seen, as we've mentioned before, Nazi sympathizers around the world being chased to the grave. Mm-hmm. I don't care if they find them in Argentina and Nicaragua and
or
Brazil
Cleveland
or wherever else. If they're 100 years old, or Cleveland, if they're 101, 105 years old, they will wheel them directly into the courthouse, book them in, and put them on trial. We have to be the same in our community, because otherwise we devalue those whose lives were sacrificed so many times before. We devalue the legacy and the memory of them, and we just simply stop fighting for what they deserve.
That's why what Ahmaud Arbery's father did, Daryl, was so extraordinary, because he said, no, we're not going to skip past this. You raised a murderer. So man to man, peer to peer, I'm holding you accountable for your son and his sickness. And by the way, son, I'm holding you accountable for what you've passed down to your son, because you are not sorry about blowing these holes into my child and killing him. You felt that you had the right. And because Dwight McKee remembers this Emmett Till tragedy, he's the only person on the phone who was in Chicago at the time who remembers it. I want to get some thoughts from him as we talk about President Trump and the violence that we're hearing from his supporters. Yeah, I mean, they're very upset. They're very upset. What is going on? What is he being charged with? Do we even know? We're just saying that, he's a criminal. Okay. What has he done? You got to have your argument sharpened, and it has to be on point too. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show, 773-763-9278. Back in a minute. Okay. Okay. Do we have Chaparral?
We should.
I'm here, Santita. I don't know why you couldn't hear me.
Okay. Well, now we have you. So let's just keep her right where she is. Okay. Okay, Henry. Let's just keep her right there.
I have to be off in 10 minutes. I have to be off in 10 minutes, Andrew.
Okay, we're going to come right to you, but I need to go to Chaparral first. Okay. Okay, everybody, but you all can talk amongst yourselves. Oh, okay. What is that? All right.
Well, today is my little guy's 9th birthday.
What?
Friend.
Wait a minute. Next year, he's going to be in double digits.
He's going to be double digits. I know.
Oh, my gosh. Which means he'll be a teenager 3 years after that. Double digits. Double digits, girl. What you
enjoy these times. Enjoy these times. Enjoy these moments.
Thank you. We are. It's all Pokemon right now. I don't know if any of y'all know about Pikachu, but I got a PhD in it.
Oh, that sweet baby. We have to wish John a happy birthday. Bless his heart. But see, now he knows how to vote. We know that. His mommy brings him to vote. And he's just the most precious little baby. Excuse me.
Well, his teacher did not believe him when he said he voted with Reverend Jesse Jackson. She was like, "No, you did not." And so he brought him the picture.
I guess I did.
He got to present to the class for her denial.
And see, remember we were with Daryl that day too, and Barbara Online. And I'm so glad we went in with them.
Yes, we were.
We got there early. Get that vote in. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. I think we're gonna have to continue to dig down on President Trump and his supporters to find out who they are. Because there's a lot of myth making. Like most of his supporters are affluent and white. And it's not the white working class who've been supporting him. That's amazing how they're able to just continue to, but we don't read. So we allow these myths to go forward. But I remember catching that New York Times article early on that 2/3 of his supporters made $50,000 a year or more. 2/3 of them. But they're always clowning the working class of every color. And that's what they've been trying to do to white people.
About a minute, by the way.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Very good. Okay. So, Chaparral, you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. I'm coming right to you. It'll be a tight minute, and then we're going to go right into President Trump. And Dwight, I'm going to come to you. Will an FBI raid supercharge Trump, and you'll get us started there before you go, okay?
Right.
Okay, very good. Hi, Morning Stars. I'm so glad we're back. Yay. Ooh. Oh, Robert Williams, I hear you, sweetie, but he's got more than 7 supporters. He said documents of the news media were showing Trump supporters outside of Mar-a-Lago, all 7 of them. Honey, all you have to do is look at these election results. That lets you know the depth and breadth of his support. It is deep and it is wide. And they have, he has been given a gift. Stand by.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. It's time to bust some myth. Most Trump supporters were not working class. Indeed, 2/3 of them made $50,000 a year or more. They were white, they were affluent. But before we get into that and whether this FBI raid has supercharged his support, as it apparently has, many are now calling for him to go on and announce that he's running in 2024. They say, do it now. Just do it. Chappelle, whatever happens November of 2024, I want you to make a big spread for us. CK, after you finish voting in Atlanta, and Robert, after you finish voting in Atlanta, and Daryl, after you finish voting out in Maryland, just outside of DC. We're going to come to Chicago and have a big old potluck meal. But she's going to be bringing all the food. Hey, Chappelle, celebrations by us. D-Ray's been waiting for you, just so that you know.
Yes, I talked to D-Ray yesterday, and let me tell you, we are still working here at Celebrations by Us, so give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We can handle all of your catering needs, as well as also your dessert tables, your balloon arches, as well as also your custom decor. So don't hesitate to give us a call, 708-526-4546. We look forward to serving you. Thank you so much, Santita.
What is your Facebook page?
The Facebook page is Celebrations by Us, and on Instagram, Celebrations by Us 1.
Okay, and you still have your daughter's wedding up on your Facebook page, yes?
Yes, I do. I have plenty of videos as well as also a lot of pictures on Instagram.
It was absolutely beautiful, everybody. I couldn't stay long, but I was there. Didn't get enough food, but I was there. But there was plenty of food to go around. I just had to leave. But it was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. Celebrations by Us, everybody. 708-526-4546. Dwight, before you go, I came across a headline which I found interesting. It said, the question from the BBC asks, will this raid, will it supercharge Trump and his supporters? What do you think? You seemed to say that yesterday.
It has supercharged Trump and his supporters. And they really feed off these kind of conspiracy theories, and it looks like a conspiracy.
But Dwight, haven't you seen that civil rights workers we have the same fears? It's like we're looking through the looking glass, kind of sort of seeing the same thing, kind of.
Well, in many ways, the same institutions. Mm-hmm. It's the FBI that was complicit in Dr. King's death, in Malcolm's death. It was.
They wouldn't protect Medgar Evers.
Yes, in many ways the same institutions. Mm-hmm. But what happens is that, and this is why I was so frustrated, is that for the first time, the Democrats had developed a real momentum. They had some real deliverables that they could argue their case from. They had the new legislation that passed. They had the benefit of the abortion issue that was kind of swaying some of the white women in their direction. They had the benefit of these tax proposals, of these new laws that dealt with protecting the buying of prescription drugs. I mean, for the first time, they had a real momentum going and a case to argue, and then they called time out while they had the momentum working in their favor. And everything shifted. So now Trump has the momentum. And everybody in his camp now is saying this is a conspiracy to take him out because Biden is afraid that if he runs, he's going to win. And it is just totally disadvantageous now to the Democrats, because now the people who are marginal, which are many, black and white, now he has become the martyr for them, and now he is the one who is the protector of civil liberties, and he is the one who is trying to save the Constitution and save the state, the nation.
For black people too?
Now,
you said for black people too? You said for black people too?
For black people too.
Okay,
yeah,
explain that. Explain that one. I can't let you go before you explain that.
There is some empathy that black people have for people they see as oppressed. In that legislation that they passed the other day, they put in a budget for 87,000 IRS workers.
Oh.
Black people see that as a threat to them. They think that those IRS, that they're going to be audited, that they're going to become the victims of that. There is a natural inclination of black people to assume that they're going to be the victims of any oppression that comes down first. And it's not a fear that grows in the abstract. It's a fear that grows in our history of this country, that we're always the first ones to pay the price. And so there's an empathy that a lot of black people are developing about Donald Trump to say, yeah, something is wrong. Why do they keep coming after him and nothing sticks? It is no different than what they did with Dr. King. It is no different than they did with Fred Hampton. It is no different than they tried to do with Malcolm and Elijah. And so they're making this guy a martyr. And if they keep at the rate that they're going and keep creating this momentum around him, we're going to look around and they're going to have the new government locked up. He's going to be the president all over again. Now, remember again, it was Barack, it was Obama berating him that put him in a race in the first place. He was not even thinking about running.
Oh, at the Correspondence Dinner.
Berating him. And it was in him reacting to Obama to say, you're not going to punk me. I'm going to show you that at least I'm willing to get in the fight.
But don't you think he was being just a little prickly? Because Obama wasn't berating him. The White House Correspondence Dinner is a roast. Everybody gets roasted. I think like the year before, was it Stephen Colbert roasted Reverend and all these other people? I mean, that's what they do, right? What did Obama do that was so awful?
Well, it was perceived as awful. It was perceived as personal.
Okay.
And it is really the impetus that put him in the race. The point is that when you create a momentum around these kind of narcissistic people with the resources, then it's always at your peril because, as you said a little while ago, it is not just him. His base is more white than he has more white people vote for him than Biden has voted for him. So what you're doing is you're playing for the margins. You're playing for a large amount of black people and a large amount of Hispanic people and some liberals whites is in the margin. And if you lose that, then you lost the battle. You lose the war. If you lose those margins, then you lose the election, or you win if you win those margins, you win the election, and that is who they're galvanizing is with all of these issues is the people in the margins.
Dwight McKee always kind of putting it on a whole different page. C.K. Hoffler, thank you so much, Dwight. Can't wait to have you back, perhaps tomorrow. CK, what are your thoughts? And of course, Robert, I'm coming to you, and Daryl and Aaron.
Well, Santita, I think I shared this with you yesterday on my show on WAOK. I had a caller that called in that basically was very, very upset, much like the social media tweets that we're seeing, rage, a lot of rage, a lot of anger at the raid at Donald Trump's home or at his place of business. And what she was saying was similar to what we and many in the black community were saying over the years about what J. Edgar Hoover did, and to Dr. King, to your dad, to Malcolm X, to the Black Panthers, to all that establishment, if you will, of the FBI.
Okay.
I didn't know if it was me or if it was you. If it was ambulance there here in Atlanta, but did to so many civil rights leaders, human rights leaders. And so she was really, really spewing that venom. And my response is, of course, I do not want to see abuse of law, abuse of process, unauthorized use of force, because that is the type of thing that has historically killed African Americans in our community. We've been victims of that. Black and brown people are still victims of that. Every single day, excessive use of force where government intervenes. So I'm not in favor of that. However, in this case, thus far, I've seen no abuse. There was a warrant that was properly executed meticulously. This was a case that was meticulously put together. A judge, who I believe was a Trump appointee, signed off on the warrant. They knew the president's, they always know President Trump's schedule because he's got Secret Service with him. They knew all of the moving parts as well they should have known. And the only thing that was different is that this was, that the intended party was a former president of the United States.
Recording in progress.
There was a whole lot of time.
Okay, we hear something in the background.
Okay, we hear something in the background.
So you don't want to put someone on the list. You're just going to
Okay, I don't know what's going on in the background, but
I don't know
okay.
what's going on in the background, but okay.
Okay, someone has the radio on. Okay, very good.
The radio on. Okay, very good.
Bring the radio down.
So,
Bring the radio down.
I condemn use for excessive use of force by any governmental entity.
Oh, hold on one second. Someone has the radio on
Someone has the radio on.
or their computer on. Please turn the volume all the way off.
Turn the volume all the way off.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
No, that's not. It hasn't happened.
No, that's not.
I don't know why we're getting that feedback.
I don't know
Henry,
why we're
please
getting
help
that
us to find
feedback.
out what it
Henry,
is.
Please help us to find out what it is.
Yeah, it's on someone's end. I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay. Thank you. Just put everyone on mute except CK so that we can hear her.
Except CK so that we can hear her.
Okay. CK?
CK? Yes. I still hear an echo, but I'm going to
Yeah, hold on one second. We have to isolate that.
We have to isolate that.
I don't know what that is,
I don't know what that is,
but we still have it.
but we still have it.
Testing.
Testing.
Okay, we still have it, Henry. I don't know
Okay, we
what's
still have
going
it,
on.
Henry. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Okay.
It's still there.
It's
Okay,
still
so we're
there.
going to see, because even when I speak, I hear it. So
Even
it's
when I
not
speak, I hear it. So it's not
just happening in radio land or with the
just
guests.
happening in radio land or with the guests.
I don't know what it is, but it's,
I don't know what it is, but I can
also.
see.
Okay,
Okay.
we still have it. Okay, I don't know what that is. So let us see. Well, we are still talking about this, everybody, and we're going to stay on Facebook Live just for a few minutes after we get off the air,
For a few minutes after.
just so that we can, further, so that we can close out this conversation properly. I think we got it. CK, what's on your mind?
Yes. Well, excessive use of force, abuse by governmental entities, abuse of illegal warrants, improper searches and seizures, all of that, as an officer of the court, as a lawyer, as an African-American person, understanding my history, our history, the history of this country as it relates to our great civil rights icon, our human rights icons, that goes back from time immemorial. Black people have been of excessive use of force, of police brutality, of illegal searches, of illegal warrants, and all of that. I am someone who is not a proponent of that. I think that that is wrong, no matter who the intended person is on the other side. We have to be able to operate within the confines of, executing on appropriate warrants. In the Breonna Taylor case, for instance, we see that there were problems with the warrant. So we have to always look at those questions. However, in this instance, in terms of the warrant, to the warrant served that resulted in the raid on President Trump.
Hold on. Wait, Henry, what is that? Because
What is that?
we had killed that echo for about a minute. What happened?
Who's on speaker?
Is anyone on speaker?
No, I can put in a earpiece.
No, because you sound well. Okay, let's try it again. CK, continue. I'm trying to get closing thoughts from everybody.
Certainly. As it relates to the execution of the warrant by the Justice Department that led to the raid, we have to remember that a judge signed that warrant. The Justice Department was very meticulous in laying the foundation, laying the legwork to get a warrant that a judge, and I believe it was a Trump-appointed judge, executed and signed off on. This was meticulously done. It was not a fly-by-night warrant. They understood the magnitude. They understood the significance. They understood potentially the political fallout. All of that, I believe, was contemplated. So they knew they had to cross every T and dot every I. I have thus far not seen flaws or anything that would lead me to believe that the warrant itself was illegal, obtained by illegal means, or there was anything improper with it. So I don't want to conflate issues. I don't want to get anything twisted or confused. Justice has got to be justice across the board. But when you do have a properly executed warrant, when you do have proper procedures that were followed by the Justice Department, by the FBI, they are properly followed by Justice Department and the FBI. And we don't need to invent or put into the mix things where there's no evidence to support it. That's all I'm saying. But again, my initial position is, any abuse of power I condemn. I'm not in favor of abuse of power. We've all been victims of abuse of power, at least in the African American community from time immemorial. That is not what I am advocating whatsoever. But you've got to look at every case, every instance, the evidence, and what the warrant says, what it's seeking to do. And thus far, I have not seen any evidence of impropriety, of illegality, and things like that have been accused. I do recognize in the cyber world, and we have been many leaders and the like have been notified of the heightened anger and venom in cyber world of those who feel that President Trump has somehow been a victim of abuse of power. And we have been put on notice that the venom and the cyber attacks are way more extreme than what we saw leading up to the events of January 6th. So we do recognize, everyone recognizes that this is a polarizing issue. But in terms of the fundamentals, the looking at the warrant, the information that is readily available, I have seen no illegality. That's what I look out for. And if I do see, and if there is evidence of that, then that's a different discussion. But I don't want to compare what may have happened to Dr. King, what J. Edgar Hoover did when we had evidence of the illegality of what is happening today, because we don't see the evidence. And so that would be how I would like to frame the issue within that. This is illegal. We're looking at the legal aspects. I like to frame the issue that way. Now, the political questions, the political fallout, the anger, the venom, the divided country, that's a different question. That's a different issue, Cynthia.
Well, let me get literally a minute from everyone, a tight minute at that. Attorney Daryl Jones, your thoughts about where we are? Because this is, some people are saying they're calling for civil war. Oh, Daryl Jones dropped. Okay, then we have got Attorney Aaron Connolly, and then you, Attorney Robert Patillo. Attorney Connolly, 1 minute.
Well, I think CK's point about the due diligence of the FBI in this situation. They know what the stakes are. The warrant was proper. The charges are likely going to stand. There is not a level of impropriety here that we have seen with some cases in the past. And I think we have to trust moving forward that due diligence was completed. And we have to look at it that this is a proper serving of President Trump, and that the Justice Department has done their job.
Okay, and Robert Patillo, your thoughts about this? Because we're seeing the temperatures rise and people in his party are saying, and even people who were not particularly crazy about him running again, they are now calling for him to announce that he's going to run in 2024, and let's go on and get this going. What do you say about that? It's only 2022, but they are hot about this.
Well, it's interesting to me because he hasn't stopped running. He's been running for president since 2014 or 2015, including the entire time that he was president. And the thing that I don't understand what the Trumpian defense in this case is, if he violated the Presidential Records Act, the FBI had already been by Mar-a-Lago a couple months ago. They'd had conversations earlier this year and even last year. He knew he had the documents that he wasn't supposed to have. He could have just turned them over at any point in time. That's where the conspiracy kind of falls apart, because President Trump had the ability at any point in time just to drop off a box in the mail and send it to the National Archives, and this entire thing would have been done. What was it that he was hiding that he felt strongly enough about that he would not turn that over to federal investigators? And that's the question that's going to drive this case going forward. And this just adds to the avalanche of investigations against him. You have the National Archives case that he was raided for. You have the deposition in front of Letitia James this week in the Trump Organization case in New York. You have Rudy Giuliani and Lindsey Graham being called before the grand jury in Atlanta for the election fraud case there, where he tried to influence Brad Raffensperger to fix the election. You have the January 6th hearings, which are going to begin again next month in September, with regards to Trump's actions in fomenting the overthrow. At what point in time will his supporters think to themselves, okay, maybe it's not a conspiracy. Maybe this dude just breaks a lot of laws, and we should find someone else who has the same values but less baggage.
Well, I think, if you all can stay with me for a couple of minutes after we get off the air, we'll still be on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please stay there, because I think that we've got to find out what is going on here. I agree with you, CK. The Presidential Records Act was enacted in 1978, and it was enacted for a specific set of reasons. We need to know what the charges are. I mean, why he was raided. We need to know why it is that with the two interviews that were conducted at Mar-a-Lago, and at one of those interviews, former President Trump apparently took them to the place where they're holding the records. Why didn't they seize them then? I mean, that for me is like, what's going on here? And we just need to know. We need to know so that we can operate with some certainty. We need that. And I think that we have to arrive at conclusions, everybody. Don't jump to them. Let's arrive at conclusions. We need to know what is really going on here. I'm hoping that we will be peaceful, that we will be thoughtful, we will be reflective, and that we will be settled in whatever the conclusions are. We have to be scientific about this. Science, it does not obey people. Science obeys facts. Numbers are what they are. Facts are what they are. Laws are what they are. We need to know what happened here. But now things are really they're growing and growing and growing. Now people want President Trump to run for their own reasons. And I think we need to understand that too. And so I invite Trump supporters to call. Really, you will have respect. You will be respected here. I want to know what your thoughts are. I want to reach out to some of my people who are actual Trump supporters. I want to know what your thoughts are. Why is it that, what do you see? And why do you see things this way? That's very, very important. We need to begin to understand each other, everybody. Really. And start embracing each other, but at least respect each other. That's where it all begins. I love you, everybody. Legal Q&A with CK. Everybody, I know she will be on TV sometime soon, but of course she is on WAOK every Tuesday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Robert Patillo is on WAOK every Sunday from 1 to 4. And of course, my dear friend Aaron Connolly, my sister beloved, as is CK, and attorney Daryl Jones, and Dwight McKee, and Vicki Johnson, and Dr. Shanina Knighton. Everybody, thank you for being with us today. Much love. God bless you. Can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. Hey, everybody. Has there anything that's been left unsaid? CK, Robert, Aaron.
I think we really have covered it. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it was very interesting that just as I was about to make my point, we have these problems with the airwaves. But in any event,
well, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a theorist. I'm a conspiracy realist. I have lived all this crazy stuff. Stuff you can't make this up. Okay. I copped to it. I'm like, baby, I have seen some things. I've seen an elephant fly, and she was wearing pink ruffled panties. Trust me. And she had an orange snout. How about that? What? Yes.
But Santita, in conspiracy news, and this is what Sunday we did a deep dive on my show.
Lord.
Sunday we did a deep dive in my show on the issue between China and Taiwan and how China will be launching cyber attacks against Taiwan going forward. Literally, as soon as I said it, the complete power in my whole neighborhood went out.
See, you know,
make it up.
Well, there we have it.
Well, no, but they call you paranoid, CK.
Right.
But then I look up
and
I see a dossier. The FBI will bring us a dossier and say, well, I'm like, oh, so my friends, who I thought were my friends, at least one or two of them, or a dozen, or all of them, I don't know, have been informants. Okay. So I wasn't being paranoid. And one of my friends.
It doesn't really take paranoia. It just is what it is. We're operating in a very, in the cyberspace world, everything. No one should have any expectation of privacy. I mean, that's just it, period. Not in business, not in banking, not in personal life, not in, if you turn on your TV and you have a smart TV, everything about your life is potentially open to the world.
But you know what? I can handle that.
That's just the way it is.
But you know what bothers me? Being spied upon and someone who's trying to undermine us and undercut us. You see, that's what they were doing with Dr. King, and we've looked up, and there are people who've been informants who've worked for Reverend down through the years. One guy was sent to kill him, and he had to come on television and confess that. Well, when we were growing up. I mean, this was our Uncle Howard. So, I'm like,
when you say that, it's the unthinkable. I hope that in one of your shows that you will talk about and just underscore the tremendous sacrifices that families make when there are civil rights icons and how it was for, it's hard to get personal, but it really is a reality of life. What it's like growing up in that environment with the expectation or the lack of expectation that your father, your loved one, will come home because of all of the threats.
You expect him not to be alive at the end of the day. That is the expectation. I was reading a Washingtonian magazine, and we were in school in D.C., so it's a really, really Tony magazine. It's like Chicago magazine, and I know Atlanta has its corollary. And, they have wonderful stories about people who are living in the city and living in Washington. Well, this particular article was on children of famous parents who were in school in Washington. And they really did a focus. They looked at some of us who were in college, but they looked at people who were in boarding school and high school. And they had Jesse Jr. in one of the profiles. And Jesse, when people know him, he's really fun loving. He's a lot of fun. And they had him laughing, and he was wearing his St. Albans uniform because by the time Jesse finished St. Albans, they completely changed the dress code because they said they instituted what Yusef called, they looked at him at the intake because he went there too. They said, we now have the Jackson rules, and they turned to Yusef because they said all you needed was a jacket and a tie. So Jesse would find the most outlandish ties, and he wore a windbreaker, not a blazer. So there you have it. And you see him laughing in front of his dorm. And the caption was, you don't feel the same way about rebelling against your parent when every time you see him, you think it will be the last time you see them. And he talked about going with dad to the airport, which we would do every week, at least one of us. And he said, sometimes I'd have to go to the restroom and cry, before I could walk with Dad to the gate, because I was like, this could be it. And you grow up like that. This could be it. It's, and it's part of the price you pay, not to be someone's child, but for freedom. You have to take it beyond you. And that was something that our parents taught us to do. My father was very understanding of our personal fears, but he said, somebody's got to take a stand for you. And he said, and this is what Daddy's going to do. And I don't want to leave you, but if I do, no, I need you to continue. I need you to get your education, and I need you to not stop. Because this is what is required for you to be free, for you to have liberty. And I'm not going to stop. And a bullet should not stop you if it gets me. And I grew up with that. And it was hard to hear, because God knows I adore my father. But there you have it. And the struggle does continue, and victory is certain, which is what you tell us all the time, CK. Victory is certain, but it is only certain if the struggle continues.
If the struggle continues, yeah. Well, Santita, I always get chills up my spine when you talk about that, because I think that's real. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about Emmett Till, we talk about all of these Ahmaud Arbery. The entire discussion today is reminiscent, because we're talking about law enforcement, abuse of power, illegal activity by alleged illegal activity by governmental entities, and people who are victims, families who are victims. And all of these things are surfacing in the minds of many. And the biggest difference is they're surfacing in the minds of some who were potentially previously perpetrators. And so I think there's on some level there's healthy discussion. On another level, I think there's more division in this country. But I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful for the future. I think we're just going to continue to go through something here because of where we are.
Well, I think that you're right. Aaron, do you have anything you want to say? And happy birthday to our baby John. Oh, I love you, CK.
Thank you.
And happy birthday to baby John. I'm going to sign off. And Santita, this is a great, uncomfortable show. Sometimes it was a great show. Hey, that's just life. It's great and uncomfortable. But thank you for that. And Aaron and everyone else, love you guys. And I will talk to you soon.
Oh, great and uncomfortable. Well, thank you for that, CK. I'll take it.
Yeah, that's a great success. When it's great and uncomfortable, well, that's what we have to do.
Oh my gosh.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Aaron, okay, now that in a minute you'll be able to get off that bed of nails. But what are your closing thoughts?
Well, thank you for a wonderful show, Santita. These are difficult conversations, right? And I'm so glad that you're back on YouTube and the Morning Stars are back. I'm so excited to be with everybody. But I think we're going to need your show more than ever to dig through some of the things that are going to come out with what's going on with former President Trump and the very real violent sentiment that's behind it. We're going to be watching in the coming days, right? I think everybody's a little bit on high alert while there's a sense of relief and among so many people that have been crying for justice for the many crimes that this former president has committed and the mockery he's really made of the presidency in many ways, and the norms that we have held dear and held to and for most presidents in this country. So I think there is this sigh of relief and then immediate tension. And so everybody take a deep breath today and, count on Santita to dig us through what's coming ahead.
Well, for all of us, because you told my brother Yusef how much you enjoyed the show, and he was like, "Can you believe it?" I said, "Oh,
I was like, of course, I enjoy it. It's the best show. My favorite way to wake up is on your show, as always."
Well, wait a minute, because we wake you up. Just kidding. You already up.
You do. No.
I'm like, Aaron will get a text like at 10 or so, 11. Aaron, I fell asleep. I forgot to call you. And you're like, okay. Well, here's some articles. Just read them.
I'm a mom.
I'm like, okay, just get ready. Robert, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Well, Robert, what has been, well, I don't think anything's been left unsaid, but what's your take on what we've been discussing today? Ahmaud Arbery, his father, who said, no, I don't like you. I don't forgive you. No. And then we've got Carolyn Bryant. Oh my gosh, Aaron, this woman, she's vexing me. And the system, it's the system that is covered up for her. That vexes my spirit. The University of North Carolina, the courthouse, she has had complete cover from the establishment. And then, of course, President Trump. And I think we have to have a much more nuanced view of him because no one's asking, what has he been charged with? What? I mean, if we're going to be in a debate, those points have to be sharpened too. And many of us they're not sharpened. But your thoughts, just wherever you want to go, Robert.
Well, I think there's a through line between all three of the stories that we discussed today, which is the nature of our criminal justice system, the inequities which exist within it. Black folks, we realize that justice has never been served for Emmett Till. We realize that but for extraordinary situations, justice never would have been served for Ahmaud Arbery. And at the same time, now you finally have white conservative Republicans saying, well, there's something wrong with the criminal justice system. If even a rich white man like Donald Trump can be arrested, we need to reform the system. And this might be the time where we can all set aside some political differences and say, look, if y'all MAGAs think that the system is broken, and if folks in the civil rights community think that the system is broken, more than likely the system is broken. So instead of us all just being at each other's throats when it's someone on our side of the spectrum being discriminated against by the system, let's work together to create a more perfect union. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of black folks jumping up to defend the FBI after everything that J. Edgar Hoover did, after Colin Telpro, there are still
Black Lives Matter today.
Yeah, absolutely. There are still people locked up from the 1960s right now are still living in exile
today
from what the FBI did back then.
Wait a minute, the peace movement today.
Exactly.
Wait.
So we all agree that the system is broken, the system is political, the system is corrupt. Well, then let's all work together to fix it instead of simply saying, well, this time it's corrupt in my favor, so let's just ride it out until the end. Because you notice all those back the blue people are all of a sudden defund the police people once they raid Mar-a-Lago. So let's use that to build the political coalition needed to reform the criminal justice system instead of simply being at each other's throats about it, because we all know the system is broken. It's just a question of how do we fix it?
Amen to that. I mean, and I always had a sinking feeling, and not sinking as in, but something that would sink into my spirit. Eventually, the left and the right would end up kind of coming together like that. And we could be at that point if we do not let racism, misogyny, and all of our isms and sicknesses get in the way. We could really heal the system. And you can continue to be conservative, whatever that means, be liberal, progressive, whatever those things mean, because quite frankly, we're all mixes of a whole lot of things. But the corruption in the system, the brokenness in the system, we can fix it. And I think we need to put our ideologies aside and really get to the common good. Let's look at this social contract that we have and let's fix it. Let's fix the system. The FBI should not be allowed to run amok amongst us, period. They should not do it. They're the political police. That's not right. It's just not right. And that needs to be fixed today. They don't really spy on the white nationalists. They spy on Black Lives Matter, on white progressives and peace activists and on, and they try to set people up. That's why the Whitmer case in Michigan against Governor Whitmer, oh my goodness, they were going to kidnap her. That was a plan of the FBI. And the citizens caught it and they said, no, you all did this. They did this to some black folks. Do you remember that down in Florida? Robert Patillo and Aaron, just a few years ago. oh, these black terrorists in Florida. No, just stop it. It's like, stop. Y'all stop. If you really want to catch, if you really want to go after some people who are terrorists and all, then you could do that. But that's not what you do. Just stop it. All of it. All of it. And all of the corruption that is in the White House and in all three areas of government, all three branches of government, let's just clean it up. And like you said, Robert, and as you have said, Aaron, don't just say, oh, well, I'm advantaged at this moment, so I'm just going to let it go. No, you cannot do that. Either you're going to do things correctly or they're not going to be done at all. I have to dedicate the show and really just speak to one of my former colleagues at Fox. She was on Bloomberg News, Uma Pimaraju. Did you know her, Robert? Uma Pimaraju.
I did not.
She died 64 years of age. We don't know what happened, but she passed away. And Uma was a wonderful, wonderful spirit, a great journalist, but a wonderful, sweet human being. Just really, I met some really, really wonderful people over there. I really did. Whatever our politics were, and some people are pretty progressive over there, but it's a business. I had a meeting at MSNBC to show you how it works, everybody, with the senior vice president there, because we were talking about getting me on air there about 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago. And I had to abbreviate the meeting, and she looked at me, she said, so where are you going? And I didn't want to say, because I was going to meet with Roger Ailes, quite frankly. And so she stayed with me. And I said, well, look, just, I'm not going to hide it from you. I'm on my way over to Fox. She said, I just interviewed over there about a month ago. MSNBC. They go from network to network to network to network because it's a business, everybody. It's a business. So get over it. It's not, I asked Roger Ailes, why did you hire me? He said, number one, I liked you. And I felt that if people liked you as much as I do, you would have a great, great future in this business. Who is one of the great mentees of Roger Ailes? Rachel Maddow. He helped her with her contracts, with her content, all of that. Didn't tell her what to say, just how to say it. Rachel, try this, try that. Rachel, do this. Put a little makeup on, Rachel. Do this, do that. Yeah. And she would go to him and he would help her because he liked her. That's the kind of guy that he was. So just know that you don't have friends in this space. But and what I'm saying is, it's not that you don't have friends, because he was a friend. But don't look at MSNBC as a friend. They're the people who fired Phil Donahue. Phil Donahue, when he had the number one show on their network that was just being birthed at that time. Why did they fire him? Because he was anti-war, because he opposed the invasion of Iraq. And they're owned by one of the biggest military contractors in the world. They took him off the air. Yeah. And one of the great mouthpieces for MSNBC right now is Joe Scarborough, big Republican and very, very conservative. But now we're going to make him a liberal icon. Are you kidding me? Liz Cheney, she voted with Trump 90% of the time. What? This is a personal fight that they've got going. Get out of that. Y'all start looking, start thinking, start asking, okay. I appreciate Liz Cheney and what she's doing on that committee, but I'm very clear. Her father got in office through a January 6th riot. They were called the Brooks Brothers riots. Am I not correct, Aaron and Robert? Does anyone not remember the ladies in Talbots and the young men in Brooks Brothers suits? That was dangerous in 2000 and 2001. But you know what? You got derailed. Because then you started talking about a baby that Reverend Jesse Jackson, that a woman had by him out of wedlock. So that took up your time for an entire year, and then you let that madness go. This girl is grown and graduated from college. She's fine. We're not. We've gone down the rabbit hole even further. Hello. We have to grow up in our thinking and get very clear on the games that are being played on all of us. Robert went to the heart of this. If we could just decide that we want to end corruption, wherever it comes from, boy, oh boy, we'd be unstoppable. And we'd have to stop paying attention to the media, because what they do is start calling all of Trump's people racist and ethno-nationalist and all that. And it's not true. Some people have gravitated to former President Trump for a whole lot of reasons. And some of them some of the reasons have nothing to do with race and racism. Some people are still mad about 2008. Some people are mad about losing their homes. I mean, people are mad about a lot of things. And they're looking for someone who is going to go to Washington or go to Wall Street and fight for them. That is it. That is why people toggle between Trump and Bernie. That's why Bernie Sanders is still the most popular elected politician in the United States. Let's start thinking, everybody. And don't let other people play you and think for you. Don't let them do it. Don't let them do it. Please. Have I said anything wrong, you guys? No, I'm saying nothing. Okay. What you did, D-Ray, you said, hey, they came on me. No. I've seen too much of it. I've seen too much. They're playing, and we're getting played. And it's hurting us. It's hurting us. I bump into Trump supporters all the time, and some of them will tell me, and I listen to you, and I appreciate you basically for not being unkind to me. I'm like, I don't have any reason to be. I don't have to agree with your choice of candidate. But you know what? I appreciate the fact that he brought HBCUs back into the White House and refunded them after they had been defunded by the previous administration. That happened. They started closing dormitories, Robert and Aaron, at Morehouse College, where Dr. King went to school. Because the loan system had been restructured, you needed to have pristine credit in order for your child to get a student loan. We lost almost 40,000 Black students in college in that particular period of history. What? No. Start thinking, everybody. And don't make this personal. This is not personal. Stop it. So I love you all. Thank you, Henry. And everybody have a great day. Love you all. Love you, Robert. Love you, Aaron. And please wish John a happy birthday for me. Yay. Yay, John. Yay, John. Happy birthday.
I will.
Yay.
I'm going to go wake him up right now.
Yay.
Have a great day. Thank you both.
Love you much. God bless you. Yay, Morning Stars. Love you. Give John some love, everybody. It's his birthday. It's his birthday. Aaron Connolly, everybody. Aaron C. Connolly. Reach out to her on social media. Love you, everybody.